In Chapter 6 of the Rhetorical Acts textbook, it focuses on the importance of appropriate organizational pattern for rhetorical acts. The organization reveals the relationships or the connections the rhetor sees between ideas and encourages the audience to essentially see the same conclusions. Or also, organization is a kind or type of argument, structuring materials so that readers can clearly and easily follow their points. The purpose of the chapter was to show how thinking strategically about organization helps writers convey their ideas to people. There are certain aspects going into good organization, such as formulating a thesis and outline, 3 basic types of organizational structure, function and strategic value, and in-depth instructions for introduction and conclusions. That all help adapt and convey their points to the readers. Thesis is a clear and central idea structured as a simple and declarative sentence. It also narrows the topic into a more specific claim to suggest the purpose, and it also summarizes the points the overall speaker will be going over. Outlines usually display visually ideas and connections of what the speaker is going to be talking about in their whole arguments. There are 3 basic ways to develop their thesis or claims, such as sequence structure, topical structure, and logical structure. Each part varies in their own different several ways, and each can be used in all one single rhetoric. Sequence structures can be chronological, narrative, or spatial, whereas topical structures develop a subject in parts or perspectives, or treating a subject by its subtopics or familiar divisions. Logical structures assert that ideas have some necessary relationship expressed in cause and effect or problem-solving sentences. Each form is an argument and presents certain perspectives on the subject. Looking at the RPC essays of Sondhag, Osterwale, Denby, and the Content Marketing Association, we can see their organizational structures and how they affect their persuasiveness of their overall claim. Sontag's thesis that science fiction films invite dispassionate aesthetic view of destruction and violence clearly explains her purpose and demonstrates the logical structure that we were talking about. She sets up her points and she starts essentially with specifics, and then she starts drawing conclusions, and then by the end she makes her general claims and essentially summarizes all her ideas. Osterwale opens by grabbing the attention of the reader with rhetorical questions and answering them, essentially leading into his main claim that Hollywood uses essentially 3 ways to make the public more accommodating or acceptable of the surveillance that they have been undergoing by the government, and making it them, they are essentially trying to persuade the audience by exposing them more to the idea of surveillance, showing again the logical structure. He starts with general surveillance and the background of it, and then he starts to go into how Hollywood uses it and the 3 ways, and each way has their own example or movie. And he concludes with his overall claim and thesis going back to his original claim. Denby structures his essay into several sections, focusing on broader points in each section when claiming that movies had gone from causing genuine feelings and being more quality to more big box office hits with more action and neglecting kind of other genres. He did a good job by making his points flow so that the audience can make connections and come to similar conclusions. The Content Marketing Association, they showed a figure that clearly outlines the logical flow of a story so that it can essentially connect to the reader. It shows all the purposes, it shows the characters, it shows the thesis, and how to really easily organize that. Overall, structure is important when organizing points and paragraphs, allowing it to really resonate with the target audience. Now looking at Chapter 7 in the Rhetorical Acts textbook, it goes back to the significance of rhetoric and its characteristics that make it more effective and persuasive on audiences. Language has 3 primary dimensions: such as naming or labeling and recognizing qualities or elements in ourselves or the world. Abstracting, leaving out details, usually such as like names. If you call what I'm at right now a desk, it doesn't really describe the color, the size, the shape, or anything. And then lastly, negating, where you're saying something but you're also not saying something, such as don't get a boyfriend in high school. You're saying something else, like, okay. A writer's style can be formal or informal, precise or ambiguous, literal or figurative, or economic or redundant. Good style is often defined by its clarity, vividness, appropriateness, and consistency. Language strategies are helpful to speakers to convey their claims and persuade their readers. This includes description, depictions, which are essentially intensified forms of descriptions, personification and visualization, enactment, alliteration, assonance, rhymes, parallelism, and climax constructions. These strategies are generally directed at attitudes of the readers and generally want to alter their perspectives. They do this with labeling, which is often like debunking, slogans, which are expanded labels, metaphors, allusions, identifications, such as creating a positive association between the reader and the audience so that they can share similar conclusions. These strategies of language and style can be seen in the RPC essays of Sager and Gates. Sager explains the process of the hero myth and other general myths using first-person familiar tone, metaphors, similes, allusions, and more, appealing to the audience's pathos and effectively making it more persuasive. She explains each journeys in great detail, visually illustrating them to the reader and making it more clear so that they can follow it easier. She speaks directly to the reader, and she gives more of an informal style. Gates uses numerous examples and vivid language to display his points on the exploitation of biracial buddy formula in Hollywood. He clearly describes movies like Rush Hour in great detail to display to the audience his points and specifically point out what he is trying to say. He makes comparisons with various analogies so that it can all flow, and he can make those comparisons between his points and his examples. Overall, language and style are made up of various devices to help writers convey their points and effectively persuade their audience.